So first of all, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on Freenode IRC or on the YouTube live chat, as both are being monitored. If you have any problems with buffering while watching this live stream, just drop a comment to me on the live chat or on IRC, and you're welcome to join us at any point on the Google Meet. So just a few release announcements before we begin. Today, Katello 3.18.2 was released. This update contains several bug fixes. You can find the release announcement on the Foreman community discourse, which has information on the bug fixes and also how to update. And then the big news of the week. So Foreman 2.4 has been released, and Amit is going to talk you through the major features of this release. So that is everything from me. So over to you, Amit.
Hello everyone. So we just released Foreman 2.4 on 23rd of March, and actually it was expected to release on 2nd of March, but due to multiple hurdles, and we also had to add one more RC in between, that is RC3. Release was delayed, and we also had a few release meetings where we discuss about how we can improve the release process and how we can deliver the releases on time. So we have a very verbose post regarding that, and you can find that out on the discourse. Specifically, the date is 2021, 3rd of March. I will also refer this post in the community demo post, so you can also refer that there. So this 2.4 has around 102 number of bug fixes, and there are a handful amount of features. I will go through big features and big modifications. The first one is enhanced security, and since from the Foreman 2.4, we are started to support TLS 102. So everything in the Foreman infrastructure is TLS 102 only. This means that if you have any old client systems which are like suppose EL8, EL6 or 8 or older, then you need to upgrade to the latest one. And if you have EL5, then in that case also you need to upgrade to at least EL6.8 version. This also brings another addition of stricter reverse proxy handling. This means that out of the box Rails accepts multiple reverse proxy, but in 2.4 we have modified to understand only localhost as a reverse proxy. This means that if you have any content proxies, then you need to add those to trusted proxies, and you also need restart of services. Restart of services is required because restart of services is required, and we need to add it in the trusted proxy because it is not possible to save this setting in database. So you also need to aware about this change. Another good thing added in 2.4 is there is now web UI which supports managing personal access tokens. In Foreman 1.17, we already had the API endpoints only implementation of personal access token. And since Foreman 2.4, it is possible to manage these tokens from web UI. So that new option is available. If you hover to my account, then personal access tokens page is available, and from there you can create the tokens, or you can manage the whole life cycle of that token. The next good thing is BMC has new support of Redfish. So this means that whatever new features are supported by Redfish, those can be available to the smart proxies, and those can be used. The next major part is deprecation. You might be aware about passenger support is already deprecated in 2.1, and we default to Puma since then, and now it is we are moving to we are actually moving to Puma full-fledged, and it was only there. The passenger was only there to support if there are anyone who is using passenger and they get enough time to migrate to Puma. Another important deprecation I can see is Puppet ENC. So Puppet ENC specific functionality has been deprecated, and it will be moving out in the plugin in the future. So this means that ENC endpoint will still be there, but it won't be able to inform about environments, Puppet classes, config groups, and smart class parameters. So you should be aware about that, and you can actually follow the Puppet plugin stabilization and its progress to be informed about this one. So that's it from my side.
Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot.
Thank you. And if anyone has any questions about any of the release features or deprecations, feel free to ask during the demo. And now, so we will start our demos for the day. So I must just stop presenting and hand the floor over to James first, and we'll run with the Katello demos first today. So James, you're going to talk to us about correlation IDs in Pulpcore, Katello.
Yeah, thanks, Melanie. I'm James Jeffers. I am a developer on the Katello team. And what I wanted to show you today was a small quality of life change that we're making in Katello to support sending correlation IDs into Pulp3, and why that's going to be useful for tracing operations in Pulp3. So to save a little time, I've already set up a demo repository. We'll be syncing some young content. I've already done so. And essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the task data for this operation, and we're going to retrieve the request ID that was generated by the Foreman application that Katello uses to send down into Pulp3 operations to the API. So to find this request ID, let's go down to tasks. And then we're going to find our sync operation. We're going to look at the Dynflow console. And I'm going to take a look at the very first action. And this is our request ID. This is the identifier that we are passing to Pulp3. Okay. And you can actually look at this identifier in the journal CTL logs. So let's see. I'm just going to look through all the messages that have been generated looking for this specific request ID. And the nice thing about it is that they're in the Pulpcore installations. I think this starts with Katello 4.1. You'll start to see this being passed in. But the logging changes for Pulpcore are such that if the request ID is present, it's going to be in this field. So you can basically correlate the request ID with a series of Pulpcore operations. So, for example, in this case, we have a series of Pulpcore actions that we've initiated from the Katello side that correspond to the sync. And you can see each one, as we go through the logs, they all have the same request ID. So this should help folks when they're trying to trace or debug operations between Katello and Pulpcore. You can simply search by these request IDs, and it'll give you a sort of a continuous string of operations to follow. That was pretty much it. Unless anybody had any other questions, I'll pass it back to Melanie.
Thank you very much, James. I think the connection seems good, to the live stream today, but I think that we are running a little bit behind. If there are any questions for James at any point, just feel free to ask them. And if I don't get an answer today, I will ensure that I follow up with James. So thank you very much, James. So up next, if we're going to do the Katello demos first, Samir, would you mind presenting next?
Thanks, Melanie. So can you see my screen? Okay.
Looks good, thank you.
All right. So today I want to present some additional feature work that we have done on the new content views page. So which is around adding and removing repositories to a content view. So this is the new content view UI. And this is how the add and remove repository page looks like. So we have these repositories in my demo system, and you should be able to add individual repositories like this and remove individual repositories this way. And there's also a bulk addition option. You can go ahead and add all of the repositories that you can also filter. So now you have yum repositories here, and you can remove both of those together. So now you just have the file repository here. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Samir. So I have a question for James on the live chat. Is there a way to see the ID without going to Dynaflow console?
Sorry, I had to find that mute button. You mean from a Katello perspective? I don't think right now that's something that we're displaying to the user, at least, yeah, without going to the Dynaflow console.
Okay, doke. And there is another question just in the Google chat here. For you, James. So I noticed you're using grep to find some of those messages. Is there structured logging from Pulp yet? Foreman consistent, yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I was using that simply because it was just the most convenient way for me to display it. But I'm not sure if I know how to answer that question.
That is fine too. And let me just check if there are any other questions for Samir. Thank you, James. And I don't see any questions yet for Samir, but again, with the delay, Samir, you might get us questions in a little bit. So thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, doke. So let me see now. So normally up next would be Andra with improvements to Ansible roles, if that's okay.
Yes, that's definitely okay. Let me just share my screen. Right. So today I'll be showing improvements to Ansible role switcher on host edit page. And the list of assigned roles now supports drag and drop feature. So you can move the assigned roles around. And the reason why you would want to do that is that now the rows are actually ordered, as you can see by these numbers. So when you run all your rows against the hosts, the order of the rows will be the same as you can see here in the list. The first one is grayed out. It's because it's inherited from the host group, and I can't really move the one which is inherited, these will always go first. And if that host group had a parent, then the rows from the parent would be even on top of that. And the order is also applied when you create or update your hosts with Ansible roles from the API. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Andra. Shira, you also have a Ansible improvements update. So
yes.
yeah, and I will ask then afterwards if you have any questions. If people have questions for Andra once they catch up, they can ask them, and I will ask any Ansible questions together. So thank you, Shira, in your own time.
Okay.
And thank you, Andra.
Okay. So last demo, I showed you a couple of things related to importing roles and variables. And now I have a few more improvements in that area. So the first improvement is that now importing the roles and variables is running in the background, and it's not blocking the UI while I'm waiting for the results. So let me show you. This is the importing roles and variables page, and if I will decide to import one of the roles and his variables, I will get a notification here that the task has started, and then I will get another notification that says the import was successfully finished. Another improvement in that area is that basically as a user, I want to be able to define a set of roles. I wouldn't want to be ever suggested for importing. Like for example, if I have here some, all of the Eric's mean system, I would like to ignore all of these. I can go to the settings and then the Ansible tab, and I have here this list. And I could replace what I had before and put it here, and all of these roles will not get imported. Let me show you. Oh, oops, not the correct place. Yeah, so I don't see these roles anymore. And the last improvement is that that now I can install Ansible collection on a host with Ansible playbook. So I have here the list of hosts, and I can choose this one. And I would like to schedule a remote job here, and to choose the category of Ansible Galaxy. And here I can choose the template Ansible collection, install from Galaxy, and put here the roles, the collections I would like to install. And that's it. It will install all of my collections. I can see here the output. Yeah, it will be installed. It just will take a few moments. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shira. There is one question so far for Andra. So, which version of Foreman users can consume this? Do we have a Foreman Ansible build for 2.4?
We do have Ansible built for 2.4, but this feature is not in that. It will be in 2.5.
Thank you, Andra. And if you have any questions for Shira, feel free to ask them. We seem to be running kind of questions behind, one demo behind at the moment. And just some compliments, Shira, for your lovely browser floral design. It's quite it's quite
Thank you.
nice. Okay, doke. So then we shall move on, unless there are other questions. Let me see. So Marek, would you have a short demo for us on configuration substatus?
Yep. Hello, everyone. I think the demo will literally take just 1 minute. It's a very small addition, but I hope you'll find it useful. So to demonstrate this new functionality, I have a host in here which is red, has a red status for some reason. So let's go and investigate why. And we can see there's actually several reasons for that. We have execution substatus red, we have some security errata applicable, but also configuration substatus is red. And what I want to show is this is now clickable, as well as you've seen before with the remote execution status that takes you to the last execution or to the job that was executed last time. The configuration substatus now takes you to the last configuration report, so you can see what actually happened during that and why the host is red. So if you click on that, it takes you to the configuration report detail page. And you can see, oh, this is Ansible. It couldn't connect to the host. Most likely the host was down. So you can go back to the host and trigger another Ansible configuration run. And since this would take a while for the turn screen, I'll fake it. I'll show you on another host, which is already green. It's clickable. So regardless of the state value, it takes you to the last configuration report. And if you happen to have multiple reports from different sources, since you can receive reports from Puppet, Ansible, Salt, Chef, it doesn't really matter. It always takes you to the last one. So that's it.
Thank you, Marek. That is great. I'd say if you have any questions for Marek, just ask them at any point. I think we're just a little bit ahead of everyone who's watching. So let me just figure out now who is up next. So I think we're back to Andra with highlights for changed matchers, if that's okay.
Yeah, so this is just a small improvement for matchers and overrides. So I'm actually in the on the page where I added Ansible variable, and if I scroll down, there are matchers here. And actually, if I try to change the value, I get this yellow background, which makes me aware of the fact that I actually changed the value. It goes for the drop downs as well. And this works for Ansible. It works also for Puppet. So if I change the value, I get yellow background and tooltip that says that I actually changed the value. And that's it.
Thanks, Andra. Sorry about that. I should have let you put your two together. In future, I'll try and group them. It's a good suggestion just to group all of them together in advance of the demo. So thanks for that. And if anyone has any questions for Andra, just feel free to ask. Let me see. No questions. So up next is Leoš. I had a small bit of feedback that the S in your name is a sh, so I will endeavor to remember that. So you're going to talk to us about registration templates and OS?
Yes, operating system. Let me share the screen. So let me see. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about changes in global registration templates. So first, this is a process how the registration works. As you can see, we are using two templates. The first one is called global registration template, and the second one is called was called host registration template. The reason why we have this in two steps is that the first template contains basic stuff for registering the host, and in second one we already have created host object in the Foreman database, so we can use Foreman templates tools and actually work with the object. So this is the reason why we have split it to two steps. But this also kind of caused some problems with usability and caused some user confusion. The first one was that both of them has registration in the name, and actually for the second one, for the host registration, there is no registration at all. It was more about initial configuration of the host. The registration itself has been done in the first one template. So that was causing a lot of problems where users were setting up a global registration template to operating system and or host registration template as a default registration template for the registration. So of course that didn't work, and it was kind of confusing for user to use it. Also, the third problem was that if operating systems have been created and didn't have assigned any host registration template, the registration process failed and user have to go to the Foreman and manually assign it. That was also like really confusing, and we decided to fix it. So what are the new changes in the templates and the process? The first thing is that the host registration template has been renamed to Linux host initial configuration default, and also has new template kind called host initial configuration template. This, I hope, will help user to make a difference between those two templates. Also, the thing what we added validation is that if you have registration template with kind registration, you cannot assign it to operating system. So if I try to submit this field form, you'll see that there is an error with can't assign operating system to registration template. What also we did there is that there is in settings new option default host initial configuration template. This is for when you create new operating system, we automatically assign this template to the OS, so the registration won't fail just because you missed the template. So I'll show you on the operating systems. So let's go and create new one. Sorry, let's call it US. So the new version one templates, nothing here. I'll submit, and if I will go to operating system, that are host initial configuration template set and is set to the value from the settings. And that's everything from me.
Thank you, Leoš. That looks good. So if there are any questions for Leoš, any comments, if you are on the call, you're welcome to come off mute as well and ask anything that you have. But I'd say we will park there and you can ask questions at any time. So yeah, oh yeah.
I was just wondering if there are any plans doing because this is cool. Setting up the templates was always a bummer for new users and even for us when we were setting up a new deployment. So I was wondering if this could be basically extended to all the templates kinds, because we have a couple of them. Then maybe the list of settings would grow longer. Maybe that wouldn't be the best place, but any comment on that?
We had some discussions about it, and there was some reason for why we don't want to do it for all templates, but to be honest, I don't remember it right now. There's somewhere RFC on the community, so I will try to find it and find the reason why we don't want to do it for all templates. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a good idea.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Thank you, Leos. Okay, doke. So up next then is Ole with Foreman webhooks.
Yep, thanks, Melanie. So I hope everything is visible.
Yep.
Hi everyone. Today I'm here to introduce a new plugin for Foreman called Foreman webhooks, which obviously allows you to configure webhooks and use them. For those that don't know what a webhook or why to use them, well, webhooks are simply user-defined HTTP callbacks, and this is useful when you have a third-party application or your own application, another one that needs to do something. If something happened in Foreman, for instance. For example, if a new host was created in Foreman and you want to do something about that in different application, you might use webhooks for that. So let's start with the installation. This is my new and clean Foreman 2.4. So by default, this plugin is not coming. You need to install it. Normally, you would install it via Foreman installer, which is a desired way to install plugins. But currently, this way is not available. But in the future, it will be. Yeah, and I will show you how to test this plugin with 2.4 for now, let's say. There is an RPM package available, so let's just try to install it. Yeah, it's called Foreman webhooks, obviously. It wouldn't take so long, and just to ensure that the database has correct migrations, sudo foreman rake db migrate will, just to be sure, will create needed migration for database. So everything is up to date. Yep, and just for the sake of consistency, I reboot the application. It will take a minute. If that was a question for me, I will answer a little bit later. Oh, finally. So if we reload the page, it should appear here. So the installation is done. Just, of course, we need to test it. So there is a new entry in administer menu called webhooks, where you can define your webhooks and also webhook templates. I will speak about that a little bit later. So let's just start a new or create a new webhook. Name, of course, doesn't matter, but if you want to use webhook in real world, try to make a better name. The most important fields here are target URL and subscribe to field. So target URL is for actually defining where the call must go. I've got an example page. Let's say that your application, which supports API calls, I'll copy the URL here. User password is just for basic authentication if you need it. Then you can choose HTTP method for the API call, which is posted by default. And then you've got two more fields which are required. The first one, webhook template. If you want to just Pulpcore test your application, you will go with empty payload. But if you want to send some data with the webhook call, you will need to use your or predefined template, which will generate the actual payload. I will show you a little bit later how to create them or use. So the final important field is the actual event that you want to check if it happened. For instance, let's say host created or any event you're interested in. Then there is a checkbox that enables or disables the whole webhook. You might find this useful, and I'll just uncheck verify so because I don't use it right now. And yeah, here it is. Well, to show you if it actually works, I'll show you it on other instance of Foreman, which has more data, just to make the presentation faster a little bit. So I have here predefined webhooks, just two of them, to show how you can use those. I'll start with the jobs one because I guess that is more interesting one. All the data are almost the same. I use the third application without authentication and post method, and I'm subscribing this webhook to actions for remote execution. In the future, there will be more action-like events, but for now, it just if when run host job was successful, then the event is occurred and the webhook is fired. And I'll use here a custom template called remote execution host job. It's a predefined template actually, and it comes with the plugin. Just to show you how does it look. It's as simple as that, just to show you what data you can gather from this event, or the data you can actually send when this event occurs. Let's run that one and see what it sends. Here are my hosts. Just one which is localhost. I'll run the job on this one. Just for example, simple command like echo, hi, I'm here. Let's run it. And it was successful, and the webhook was fired. As you may see here, there is a new entry. You can check the timestamps, I'm not lying. And there is a actual payload that was sent. It's just as it is just an example, but it's just to show what the data you can grab here. Obviously, you can clone the template and modify as you wish. There are such data as hostname on which the job was run, and job indication ID also, which is more important, the output of the job. I've got another example, which is, you may say, weird, but for particular tasks it can be useful. Let's assume that when a subnet is created, we want to create a domain automatically, or let's just say we want a new domain with a new subnet created in one time. So I define a new webhook, but this time the target URL is actual Foreman instance. So yeah, you can send your webhooks to the server from which you send it. It's allowed. Basic authentication post webhook template, which looks the following way. Also about the target URL. As you may see, I'm using the API endpoint for domains, and post method which will create a new domain with the data I'm sending as a payload of this webhook. The event called subnet created, and the current payload looks pretty simple. A new domain will be the subnet name with the postfix. I'll just see if it works. So the new subnet was created with such a name, and let's see if the domain was created. Yep, here it is, a new domain. So you can use the webhooks to somehow automate your needs with creating stuff or updating stuff or even deleting stuff. Also, I saw on discourse some chatting about Ansible roles and how to play them. You can even define a webhook that will run all the Ansible roles on the host that was just built automatically, so you don't forget to click a few buttons to run them. Also, there is DSL documentation available for the payload method from webhook templates, and also some information about which data you can gather in the webhook templates. do not waste more of your time. I'll call it done. So if you get any questions, feel free to reach me on IRC. Thank you.
Thank you, Ole. Has anyone any questions? Does anyone on the call like to come off mute and ask Ole about some of these features?
Yeah, I have a question. So thanks for your presentation. I think it's quite a cool feature there. I would like to ask what other kind of use cases you think of using the webhooks. Like, could it also be used for monitoring the Foreman itself, for example?
Sure. As you may saw, there is quite a big list of events that you may subscribe to. Something like if any entity was created, as I shown you, so you may get webhook for that. For now, there are events such as create, update, delete for architectures, models, and other similar things. In the future, we will add a few more events from Katello side, content-related stuff, something like you can fire the webhook when repo synchronization is finished, or if content view was published, maybe some others, probably some others as well.
No? Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thank you, Ole. If there's any more, I will get them to Ole after the next demo. So our final demo, if I am correct, our final demo of the Foreman user-focused demos for today is Chris with a new Azure enhancements.
Yeah, so let me share my screen here. Alrighty. So let me see. You should be able to see my my screen here. It'll be a quick. I'm going to spare you the actual provisioning process. But so there's two things that were added by a community user, Adam. I forget his last name, but he added support for Windows provisioning. So I did actually build a box Windows Server 2016 data center from Foreman. So here's the actual host itself. And we can actually see in Azure that it is, he's running provisioned by Foreman. So how that looks, and I'll show the other piece while I'm doing this. If I just go to create host, let's pick this guy. So operating system. So I did create an operating system for Windows. There's an image. It does have a provisioning template. And so the first thing is so basically it's just a matter of creating the operating system and then selecting Windows. And underneath the hood, it kind of ignores the SSH key and all that. The other thing that he added was this override OS disk size. So by default, all the Azure VMs, they come with a temporary disk. And then you can add one at the bottom here for a second disk. That temporary disk is usually defined by the image, but there was really no way to override it. So if you leave this by default, and he added a tooltip here, it just builds the VM with whatever size. But if I were to add like 50 in here, it would override that temporary disk. So those are the two enhancements there. Like I said, I'll save you the VM creation. As you can see, it's already been made. So that's it.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. So just pause for one moment for questions, but I think that they are okay. We'll just move If anyone has questions for Chris, as normal, ask at any point. And our Foreman developer focus demos shall begin now. And up first is a first-time demoer on for Foreman, which is Bastian, and he is going to talk about salt autosign via grains. So first of all, a very warm welcome, Basti. Hope this will be one of many demos for us in the future. So in your own time, just please.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I'll just share my slides then, which you should be able to see now. Yeah, so hi.
Yeah.
Good. I'm Bastian Schmidt. I'm a developer at Atix, and I've been working on the Foreman Salt plugin in the last couple of weeks, and I would like to show you the features we did there. So for those of you who didn't use Salt before, you can think of it to like an alternative to Puppet or Ansible. So it's also just an configuration management tool, which is supported by Foreman there. And yeah, regarding the context of this Autosign feature, so you can just imagine you're in a Foreman that you have running in a smart proxy, and the smart proxy has a salt master installed, and you also have a couple of hosts running there, which all have the salt minion, and they are already connected to each other. So the salt master is able to apply different kind of states or install software, do configuration on those hosts, so on those salt minions. And now the use case where the Autosign comes into play is when we want to have a new host added to this environment, to this infrastructure. And therefore we just trigger provisioning on our Foreman, which then comes up with a new host. And now we want this host, or this host has then also already a salt minion installed thanks to the provisioning template. But now we also want this salt minion to be part of our existing environment and also to talk to the salt master. And therefore, we need some kind of authentication at this point, such that the salt master knows, hey, this is a new minion which should be accepted and added to our environment. And that's actually where this Autosign feature comes into play. So we don't want to do this authentication manually. We want this to be done automatically right after a deployment of a new host and when the provisioning is done there. So the existing feature is the Autosign via this autosign.conf file. So again, on the left, we have our smart proxy and the new host we want to add. And on the smart proxy, there is this Autosign file, which just contains a couple of host names actually. And when you want to add a new minion to the existing environment, then you can just add its host name to this file. And when it initiates a communication, the salt master just takes a look at this file, checks whether the minion is part of it, and if it is, then the minion is accepted and can interact with the salt master actually. So this procedure is running so far, but there have been a couple of two main reasons why we want to implement a new procedure at this point. So the first one is that it's kind of insecure to use just the host name as authentication right now, because thereby we will rely on the fact that this minion that initiates a request is actually the host that we just deployed. And the second reason why we want to have a new procedure is that with a new salt version, there came more restrictive file permissions to this Autosign conf file. So when we deploy a new host, we want our Foreman proxy user on the smart proxy to write the host name into this file. But with this new salt version, the salt user on the smart proxy has to be the owner and also the only one who has the permission to write into this file. So this kind of conflicts with the procedure that we have right now. And that's why we came up with a new procedure, which is Autosign via grains. So thereby we can just imagine that we have on our smart proxy a file which contains some kind of a unique key. And we also have a file, or the configuration file on the minion, which also has this kind of key. And This is referred to as a grain. So in the salt language, grains are just some kind of information of a host, for example, an IP address or anything else. And we also can make use of this grain and set a custom grain, which is then used for the authentication process. So thereby the host, so the salt minion, reads this configuration file and then initiates the request with this key that we set there, and then the master can take a look in his key file and checks whether this key is actually placed in there and whether this host should be accepted then. And if it's the case, then of course he makes accepts the host there. So what are the changes that were done to Foreman salt and smart proxy salt? Of course, we need to generate this key somehow. So that's the first thing. And then we also want this key to be placed on the smart proxy. And this actually comes into play when we initiate a new provisioning or a new deployment here. So the interesting part is down here when you set a salt environment and a salt master and afterwards click on submit. One of the deployment steps is that we generate this key and transfer this key then to the smart proxy side. But we also want this key to be placed on the host itself after it's deployed. So therefore, we also want to transfer it to the host. And in order to do this, we changed the provisioning template which is used there. So the interesting part is right here where we add the lines which I just showed you before. So we set this grain which shall be used and put in the key which we generated previously at this point. Yeah, and so in summary, what did we do? So we removed this existing Autosign procedure with this Autosign.conf file because it became deprecated for our use case, and then we did some additions to Foreman salt. We generate this key, transfer it to the smart proxy, and we also store this key in a database. So we added a database entry under the hosts in order to make it available for the provisioning afterwards. Then there are some changes to smart proxy salt. So on this side, we need to receive this key and set it up for the salt master. So write it in that file. And last but not least, to Foreman, there we also updated the provisioning template as I just showed you. And what is right now still work in progress is that we want to add a function to remove this key from the smart proxy, such then when the salt minion is deployed and got accepted, then we don't want its key to be still placed on the smart proxy side. Yeah, and that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bastian. I will just pause for a minute to see if there are questions, but since we're running low on time, I might move on quickly to the next demos, which is from, we have two demos from Andra, one on the deprecation of an old chart library and another one on the ability to change root component props and redux state management. Yep. Thank you, Andra.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So first, I would like to announce that we are phasing out the float charts finally. So if you are still using them in your plugins, please move out from using them to use the React charts. You can see all of them in our storybook and take a look, and they are pretty customizable, so you can use them. The last one that I hope that is used only in Trends plugin that is being maintained by me, and that's the last chart we don't have the React substitute for, but I'm showing it here, the chart that I've created, and hopefully after the successful merge we will phase out this last float chart that I know of. We don't have a React substitute, and it will be looking like this. So yeah, if you are still using the float charts, please think about how to migrate as soon as possible, and we will try to make it easy for you. Please do so. Okay, that was for the charts. And the second demo I have is actually about state management in React components. So again, UI demo. Well, not really a demo, but just a notice. In the last demo, Jeremy presented this new guide where to put data in for your React component. But one thing to note, and I don't remember exactly, but he definitely didn't emphasize it enough. Some components really don't need to have the state in Redux, not even in their own state. So if it's possible, please try not to use Redux and keep the component simple. We found a few cases where we were abusing the Redux state for no reason, and the component didn't needed it, and it was a bunch of lines of code that were making the components harder to understand and harder to maintain. One gotcha was that if you use our renderer that renders the component through custom HTML web component, you had no way how to change the props of the component after the component gets rendered. So we've added an option how to do that without Redux, just basically by changing the JSON that is then translated to React props. Here you can find the example in add new components. In the bottom of the page you can find how to do that, and it's definitely much more easier than having the component in the Redux if you don't need to. So yeah, please keep your component simple. Thanks. That's it from me.
Thank you, Andre. Are there any questions? Nothing I see so far. So we will go on to what will be the final demo of today, just because we're a small bit caught for time. So first of all, Elzap was scheduled to give a demo of setting up your dev environment, but as he was preparing for the demo, it became longer and more elaborate, and he's going to give us a much longer recording that I'll upload in the next few days. So our final demo today will be from oprazak with a Apollo client for GraphQL.
Yes, thank you. So this is just a quick update that we now have Apollo client in Node.js stack, and you can use it for talking to GraphQL server. Everything should be already set up if you're on a page in core, which is controlled by React Router. So you just use a hook and execute your query. If you're in a plugin and you have registered your routes to the core, then it should work as well. If you're on a page, if you're in a component which is mounted directly onto the page in the ERB, then you need to wrap your component with the provider for everything to work. And this is just, you can find this document in our storybook. This is just a quick start guide. I recommend you consult Apollo documentation for additional cases. Their documentation is really good. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Andrea. It's good to hear that the documentation is good. And that is our final demo of today. As I said, LZAP will be broadcasting how to set up a dev environment in the next few days on our YouTube channel. So first of all, I would say that if you have any questions for any of about any of the demos today, please feel free to reach out to us on IRC or over on our community discourse, or drop a comment onto the YouTube comments here. I'll come in and check, and I will get some answers for you. Thank you very much to everybody who demoed today. Thank you for everyone who watched on the live stream, and thank you very much for your questions. And we will see you in 3 weeks. Take care.